you've made your point, Goldfinger. Thank you for the demonstration. Choose your next witticism carefully, Mr. Bond. It may be your last. Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another James Bond review. Today I'm taking a look at the 1964 mega hit Goldfinger. The film is directed by Guy Hamilton and stars once again Sir Sean Connery as James Bond. We get Gert Frobe as Auric Goldfinger, Honor Blackman as Pussy Galore. We have Shirley Eaton, Tanya Mallet and Harold Sakata as Oddjob. Right, okay, this time round Bond is sent to investigate some gold smuggling that is being done by Eric Goldfinger, played by Gert Frobe. He is to get inside the operation, find out what's going on, and he stumbles across a plan where Gert Goldfinger, if I can say it, is planning to steal the gold at Fort Knox, and James Bond has to put a stop to him. Right, what are my thoughts on Goldfinger? Well, quite simply, this is for many the quintessential Bond. This is truly the one that absolutely kick-started the franchise. The first two had been hits. The first two had been very popular. But this one was absolutely a mega hit for its time. In actual fact, if you adjust it for inflation, this made over $1 billion at the box office, which was spectacular for the time. It really, really was. And the whole world went spy crazy. It really did. If you watch retrospective reviews, if you watch documentaries, whatever you want to watch on this, it is very, very clear that this was massively influential and incredibly popular and absolutely skyrocketed this franchise into the stratosphere. Massively influential, and it's no coincidence either, really, because this is a fabulous James Bond film. It's got so many iconic moments in it, you'd really struggle to know where to start. But let's start with Sir Sean Connery. Obviously, there is many people out there going to debate who's the best James Bond, who did this, who's, For me, after watching this, and obviously I've seen this film before, I've seen all the Bond films before, never in sequence, as I've mentioned before, and never in this kind of frame of mind, if you understand what I mean. I've usually always watched Bonds really quite casually on a bank holiday afternoon sort of thing. They've kind of been on in the background, especially when I was a kid, and glancing over and having a good time at the stunts and the action here and there. But I've never really sat down, watched them from a critical perspective, and to analyse them. And Connery's just so incredible in this film. He was great in the first two, but it's very, very clear by this point he is very comfortable in this role. And he has no issues at all here with Bond. And it's my understanding as well that while initially when Connery was first cast as Bond for Dr. No, he wasn't keen. He saw Connery as working class, really, and he thought Bond was upper class to a large degree. That's how he was written. And then he came around to the fact that not only was Sean Connery the perfect Bond, but he even wrote like some Scottish ancestry into the character for later books, which was shown in Skyfall and things. So that's how influential Connery was to Ian Fleming. So that, I think, should say a lot. If Ian Fleming saw him as his Bond, who are we to argue? And as I said, he's just incredible here. Oozes class, but he also is. The one-liners are coming thick and fast in this, which is obviously becomes a mainstay for Bond. The suits, the fashion, the cars, but also the action scenes. He never struggled to pull off the action scenes. Connery, it looked like he could beat you up, and it just everything comes together on this film for Sean Connery. Incredible. So you've got Sean Connery, iconic as Bond in this. And then you've got iconic bad guys here in this, iconic villains. Gert Frobe as Auric Goldfinger, one of the greatest villains of all time in this franchise. Interestingly, and I didn't know this until researching, that he's a German actor who, well, I knew he obviously was a German actor, but I didn't know that he could barely speak English when he did this, so his voice was dubbed throughout most of this, in fact all of this, I believe. Obviously they left his voice in apparently for the German version, why wouldn't you? But yeah, I didn't know that. And then obviously we've got Harold Sakata as Oddjob. Again, not many people will argue, one of the greatest villains in the or henchmen in Bond franchise of all time. I think, you know, it's probably between him and Jaws for the greatest henchman of all time, you know. That's a debate to be had, I think. But two brilliant villains here in this Bond film. The plot as well is pretty cool, pretty interesting, you know, gold smuggling, and then the whole plan for Fort Knox. I'm sure obviously wouldn't work in reality, but it sounded like a fun and interesting plan, and it's not just a villain trying to take over the world, you know, by doing this, that, and the other. It's just Goldfinger is a greedy sod, and he just wants his stock in gold to skyrocket, sort of thing, to become pretty much the richest man that's ever lived. So you know, it's a plan that kind of makes sense in a lot of ways. You've obviously got the iconic car, for many the greatest Bond car of all time, the Aston Martin DB5, with some proper gadgets. I mean, this film really kick-started the gadget craze for Bond films. Q got more to do in this film. I mean, you've got the Aston Martin with the machine guns, the oil slick, the smoke, and probably one of the greatest gadgets of all time, the ejector seat. I remember having this car as a young boy. I wish I'd have kept it because it'd be worth a fortune now. Where you got the James Bond car, the DB5, and you pressed a button, and the little chappie came flying out of the seat in the ejector seat. Just loved it. I don't even remember if I'd seen Goldfinger at the time when I got that toy as a boy. I just loved the toy. So you've got obviously as well iconic Bond girl here, Honor Blackman, one of the greatest Bond girls of all time, one of the greatest character names of all time, Pussy Galore. I mean, it's so provocative, isn't it? I mean, how they got away with it, I don't know, but they clearly do. But they play around with it as well. When he wakes up and she introduces herself and he says, "I must be dreaming," it's just classic Connery, classic Bond. Absolutely fabulous stuff. This was, unfortunately, the last film that Fleming saw being made. He didn't even see it being released because I think he died about a month before the film's release. So this was the last one that was done in his lifetime. And it just runs along, I think, at an absolutely perfect pace. It's paced absolutely brilliantly. Yeah, there are some criticisms you can throw at it. You know, I mean, Bond's incarcerated for quite a few amounts of time in the film. There's a Bond girl introduced early on, Tanya Mallet, Tilly Masterson. Doesn't last long in the film, and I think they could have done more with her. But I mean, I'm really nitpicking there. I mean, it's just almost flawless, this. And I mean, there's so many iconic scenes. The Jill Masterson character that's just painted in gold, to have that iconic death scene. I mean, absolutely fantastic stuff. So whatever you want to say about this, there's nobody going to argue that this is right up there with the greatest Bond films ever made. I absolutely, thoroughly enjoyed watching this. I mean, I really did. I was worried going back to some of the Bond films, the earlier ones, that I was going to find them a bit of a chore because of when they were made. And that is absolutely not the truth. I mean, Dr. No, a little bit, because that was the pacing. From Russian with Love, I pretty much enjoyed all the way through. And this one, absolutely thrilled me. It reminded me as to why James Bond has remained so popular for so long because of films like this. Absolutely brilliant. So I'm thoroughly looking forward to checking out the rest of Sean Connery's and obviously the rest. I know Sean Connery never really lives up again to Goldfinger, even though they were all very, very popular, the rest of his, but I'm still enjoying looking forward to checking them out. So thanks for joining me for this James Bond classic review, guys. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Goldfinger, and I will of course be back very soon with plenty more reviews and content on the channel. And if you're new to the channel, please click subscribe, because I am going to review every single Bond film, so stick here for if you really want to check out my reviews for James Bond, as well as plenty of other content as well. So I will see you very, very soon.